We're pleased to have with us the pastor of St. Luke AME Church, the pastor of historic St. Luke AME Church. And you are?
Monique Summers.
Reverend Monique Summers. How long have you been pastor here?
Well, this will mark the beginning of my 7th year here at St. Luke and the 150 plus years of the church existence. I believe it was in 1873 that Bishop Henry McNeil Turner arrived here in Alabama and brought St. Luke into the conference. And so my tenure here began in 2017, 143 years after the formal existence of St. Luke being added to the African Methodist Episcopal Church. So I am honored to be the first female pastor to pastor this great and historic church.
That is awesome. And how long have you been in the ministry, period?
This marks my 20th year in ministry. Pastoral ministry, I have pastored for 15 years, and 6 of those have been right here with St. Luke.
That is awesome. What events have taken place here at St. Luke that you can think of offhand that really have made an impression?
I think initially coming here to St. Luke and knowing what I knew about St. Luke at the time, the history of the church, and coming in as the first female pastor, trying to build upon some of the more recent pastors that pastored here, Dr. Curry, Reverend Richard Carter, Reverend Johnny Rutledge, and then coming immediately behind Reverend Eugene Johnson. Those are some pretty big shoes to follow, and to look at the direction that I wanted the church to go in. And then within the 6 years that I've been here, of course, we've had a pandemic that we experienced. So I think we were on a roll. We had established, won the Champions of Change awards that we did my first 2 years here that came to a halt. So I feel like now in 2023 and really backing up to last year, 2022, just trying to reestablish some grounds for things that I would like to see done here. But since being here, we've received, we're on the National Registry for Historical Places to Visit. We've hosted 2 years straight the Juneteenth celebration here in Opelika, opening that up to the public. As somebody mentioned earlier, we have also hosted the gospel choir from the University of Alabama. So all of those events, including Advent and Lent celebrations that have taken place here, have been wonderful. But there are other opportunities for us to grow in those areas, such as going out doing more witnessing and trying to bring back, as one member said earlier, bringing back the glory that she recalled when the church was in its great glory in her lifetime, of seeing the church filled with members, but not only filled. When I look at the history of St. Luke, I can see so many activities and different organizations that were working in the church. And so that would be a primary goal that I would strive for going forward.
Reverend Summers, you mentioned some previous pastors here at St. Luke. What specifically have some of, if you can pull out some specific things and how that has inspired you, or what they did inspired you in your efforts here at St. Luke?
Well, I think most recently would be the Family and Friends Day celebration that we had this year when the Reverend Richard Carter came. And before he did the benediction, he began to just look around the church. And he said, my 13-year tenure here, he said, everywhere I've pastored, and of course he retired this year, he said, I left an impact. And he began to look at the stained glass windows, and he made comments on different things that were done here at St. Luke. And he said, everywhere I go, I like to leave an impact. And I've heard that before from our former bishop, Bishop James Davis. He always leaves a legacy village of some sort to mark his ministry at the various locations that he has been able to preside over. And so when I listened to Reverend Carter, and then just reflecting back on the overall history of St. Luke, and of course I came immediately behind the Reverend Eugene Johnson, who started the 501c3, which it was approved under my leadership, but that being awarded that status actually started with the Reverend Eugene Johnson. And so trying to build upon maybe one of the former pastors, I think Carter was here in year 2000, well, coming immediately behind Dr. Curry. And so reflecting and looking back, because I think, to my knowledge, Curry and Carter had the longest tenure here, most recent tenure of the pastors that previously pastored St. Luke. And so to build upon what I came into and to reflect upon what Reverend Carter said that he had accomplished, it made me go home and to really think about, where we're at and where are we going. Since I've been here, our theme has been, and on most of our bulletins on the programs, is that we're a beacon of light. But if we really look at that, then we have to ask ourselves, how are we shining in this community where there is a need? As someone earlier mentioned, it's a low-income, poverty-stricken area. How are we shining? Yes, there's a food pantry ministry and food ministry that went on prior to me arriving here and continued. But what other areas can we help? We started giving out personal care items, personal care pantry that also gave birth since I've been here. But of course, with the pandemic, a lot of things just stopped and we're not back to where we were prior. So I guess the goal and the task would be, what will be the impact that I will have on my leadership here at the church overall? If I were to leave today, would I be satisfied with what has been accomplished? Yes, there's been some improvements to the edifice. We've had the front doors repaired and some work on the church and ongoing work now. But beyond that, when you look at the people, because people may not remember your name, but they'll remember how you made them feel and what you did for them. And so I guess going forward, I would like to be that beacon that is shining in all areas of the church life. And first and foremost is offering salvation to all and making sure everyone who walks through these doors know that we care and that there's a place for them here at St. Luke.
As we sit here and record these videos, because of COVID, the virtual aspect of worship has really been introduced and is now just global, it seems. Do you foresee that as being something we continue to use going forward in worship, in church, everything, really?
I think there was a huge change. I think that change was for the greater good of the church. I don't think we'll ever go back to church as we previously knew it. I don't want to go back to church as we previously knew it with only an in-person worship service. I think having the diversity of being able to be on television, being able to be on radio, but most everyone has a cellular mobile device that they can log into. And so having a presence on social media, to be able to join by Zoom or to hear a message on YouTube and can listen to that message over and over again as often as you like, a presence on Facebook and other avenues, it's been great for the church. And one aspect. And the other aspect, the Bible says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves together. Yes. And so when we're worshiping virtually, we don't get that one-on-one interaction that we would get in in-person worship. And it is during that time, sometimes some people don't need a word, they need a hug. Yes. And when you're doing a virtual hug compared to an actual physical hug, there's a difference there. And so I think in one behalf is really great. On the other, I think there are some areas that we need to improve on to see how we can incorporate being both in person and having a virtual worship service and impacting lives, because ultimately that's what we're here to do, to offer salvation.
Yes, yes.
On every means and every level.
Okay. Thank you, Reverend Summers. I really appreciate your insight and your openness. We hope, go ahead, please.
And thank you.
Oh, you're so very welcome.